Hello everyone! Long time no see, and I know that some of you were waiting for the second part of this tutorial. Finally, here I am to show you what was promised many months ago. Let's begin! I'm starting with the sleeve. The same as I did with the body part, I will do 2x2 rib. I'm doing a tubular cast on 2x2, but you can do it any way you like to cast on stitches. I prefer a tubular cast on as I believe it looks much better and it doesn't take too much energy and patience. If you have watched the first part of this video tutorial, you already have seen in detail how I'm doing it. Otherwise, follow the link to a short video with an explanation of this technique, which can be found in the description below. When all stitches on my needles, I work the rib. Here I'm using double pointed needles as I'm used to knitting narrow parts with them, but if you prefer the magic loop technique, don't hesitate to use it. The most important that you get the same result, 2x2 rib. I work the rib at the same height as I have on the body part. Next round I need to change the needle size to the bigger one. At the same time I have some evenly spaced increases. To make my life easier, I use a knitting calculator that I just found by googling, as there are many of them. In this one, I just fill up the form for increases, where I put the number of stitches I have on my needles and how many I need to increase. This calculator gives me instructions that I simply need to follow to get the needed number of stitches. Here, K and number correspond to the number of knitting stitches I need to work, and M1 is an increase. Then you see repeating part of M1 increase plus 5 knit stitches that I need to do 7 times. Just follow the instructions. I do first 2 stitches. And then the repeating part of 1 increase and 5 knit stitches. The increase I do from the strand in between stitches that I work as a twisted knit stitch. Then 5 knit stitches. Of course, it can be a bit challenging with double pointed needles if you're not used to them. Just take it easy and check that you don't do too long stretches in between the needles. Keep doing increases according to the given instructions. After increases, I start working on chart 1. In the pattern you will see that for chart 1 I have 2 parts, which are marked as left side repeat and right side repeat. Generally, it doesn't matter which part you're going to use for the right or left sleeve, more importantly, for every sleeve you use different parts. There is no significant difference with chart 1, which we have already worked on in the previous video tutorial. Everything is absolutely the same in terms of how to work with 2 and 3 color charts. The only difference if you use double pointed needles but not circle needles or technique magic loop is that you need to be extra attentive to the thread tension on the back side when you start with a new needle, as it is very often these stretches on the back can be over tightened. If you are doing everything correctly when it comes to the parts of chart 1, when you have both sleeves, you will see that these yellow leaves look in different directions. When I finish with chart 1, I start chart 2, and here's also the tricky part with the increases along the beginning of the row. In the pattern, it is said that I need to increase every 4th row 10 times. First I will work 3 rows, which are just of the main color according to chart 2. For the record of the tutorial, I used another type of increase and therefore I won't show this part. Actually, I experimented a lot with different types of techniques, and on the way before publishing the pattern I changed my mind and put M1R and M1L into the pattern, even if they are slightly more demanding for beginners. But since we do Raglan construction anyway, which is also not completely beginner friendly, I believe it will be better with these increases. Let me use another sample to show increases along the sleeve. First I do 1 knit stitch. Then I do M1L, which is make 1 left increase. Here I pick up the strand between stitches. The longest part of the strand is supposed to be in front. It looks like this. I make a knit stitch using the back loop. It might be tight here, so just try to stretch it before making the stitch. We've done with the make 1 left increase. Then I knit across the sleeve until I have only 1 stitch left before the beginning of the row. Here I do M1R, which is make 1 right increase. I pick up the strand between the stitches the way the longest part of the strand will be on the back. And then I need to make a knit stitch through this short front loop. I stretch it a bit and then make a knit stitch. And we have an increase done. And then 1 knit stitch. So I will have 2 stitches in between increases. At the same time, while I'm doing increases, I have to work on chart 2. There's no starting point for chart 2, as the main thing you need to do here is to match the colors to chart 1. So after 3 rows with a 1 color knitting, I work row 4 of chart 2, and here I need to pay attention to where I put the first 1 stitch of yellow color. Here I put a picture of where you need to place it, so you see it will be in between of these blue peaks of chart 1, and once you place this one, you can keep track of where the other dots are supposed to be. You also need to remember that this 1 stitch that goes along the beginning of the row that you have before and after the increases are always of the main color, so you don't apply chart 2 for them. And they cannot have any other colors than the main one. You keep knitting the sleeve, carefully doing increases and at the same time working chart 2. I keep knitting the sleeves until the recommended or desired length. It is important to remember when you knit any garment that you have to check the length of the sleeves on you, especially if you have shorter or longer arms. And it's also important regardless because when knitting bottom up, you will have a hard time adjusting the lengths when the sweater is finished. So please try it on first. The other thing that will make your life so much easier is to stop at the point of the chart when you have the next row just 1 color. Because when we connect everything together, it will be more convenient to use just 1 color throughout the whole row, as we'll need to pay more attention to joining all parts rather than following the chart. Having chart 2, it is also easier to see that the length of both sleeves is equal. Sleeves are ready and I place the middle stitches on the stitch holder for the underarm. So take both from before the beginning of the row and after. After that, even if I have already made a body part, I want to see that the last row is the same as on the sleeves. If not, I keep knitting the body or unravel some rows depending on whether I want to get a slightly longer or shorter body part. Later on, I will join body and sleeves and continue with the same chart too, therefore it is so important. After some adjustments to the lengths, I have my body part ready to join to the sleeves. Here again, I read the instructions given in the pattern. Place stitches on the stitch holder, the number check of course for my size. Then count stitches of the body to find the next underarm. And then place on the stitch holder the stitches for the underarm. If you did everything right, the next row of the chart will be just one color, which makes our joining time easier. I'm using the needle that I was working on the body part to join everything together, and I place a marker at the beginning of the row. Then I take one of the sleeves and do the first stitch. It will be a bit loose, but don't worry, it won't be that loose afterwards. Just hold the thread tight and do the next two stitches tighter. And then just knit across the row of the sleeve. Normally the first row is a bit tight on the edges of the sleeve. Just move all stitches closer to the tip of the needle to make it easier to knit across. Before joining the other side of the sleeve, I put a stitch marker. Then make a first stitch and place another marker. I keep knitting the front of the body until one stitch before the next stitch holder. I place a stitch marker for the raglan, knit one stitch and place another marker. Then I join the second sleeve. I keep knitting the row and on the way set all the markers. After the joining, you can work about 2-3 cm without any changes, just following chart 2. Here in the video I didn't do any rows for the heights and I really regret it, as I like it when the yoke part has some more height and doesn't sit too tight for the underarms. I'm going to do decreases along the raglan lines every second row. So one row I do decreases by every stitch marker, and next row I don't do any decreases, and then again. When I do decrease, I also have to remember that those stitches of the raglan lines are always of main color. Now I'll show you how I do decreases. Here's my marker at the beginning of the row, and you see it is still some thread tension as we're pretty close to the armholes, therefore it looks a bit loose here, but it will be good looking when we are high in the yoke. My beginning of the row is also a Raglan marker, so I do the first decrease here and knit 2 stitches together, which means I knit them through the front loop. Then I knit across the sleeve and stop when I have the last 2 stitches before the next marker. These 2 stitches I knit together, but using slip, slip, knit, decrease. I slip the first stitch, I slip the second, and you see they're turned now, and then I knit them together through the back loop. Then I move the marker, knit the Raglan stitch, move the marker, and knit 2 stitches together through the front loop. So every time I reach the Raglan line or marker, I do slip, slip, knit, decrease before the Raglan line and knit 2 stitches together, decrease after the marker of the Raglan line. There will be also some places where I get 2 long stretches of the yellow or red or light blue color behind the Raglan line, and this I want to avoid. Let me show what I do in this case. For example, I had here already 5 stitches of the main color, and then I have the thread under the second color. Then I still have some stitches of the main color, but I pick them up above the second color thread. The main collar will be tightened closer to my knitting, and here I just make sure it is as little visible on the front side as possible. I would avoid doing this entangling along the Raglan line because it is where it can be most visible, but rather 1 stitch before or after Raglan. Otherwise, I just keep decreasing every second row following chart 2 so many times as is written in the pattern. It is time to work the neck, and here just take smaller needles again. I will start with working the rib right away, and here I want to make 1 knit, 1 purl rib neck, but also you can do 2 knit, 2 purl rib, which is I guess more logical since we have all other ribs of the sweater like this, but I do 1 knit, 1 purl rib anyway. Here I will not have any secrets or tips, and I just work the rib next 3-4 centimeters. When the neck rib is ready, I bind it off loosely with a needle. You can see my video about how to bind off the rib with a needle for a nice looking edge. Check the link in the description for the explanations. Finally, I grafted the armholes, and here also won't go into details as I do explain grafting in every video tutorial, so I just leave you the link in the description for the detailed explanations of this part. Thank you for your patience in waiting for the second tutorial, and I hope now you have all the instructions and all the tips that will help you to start and, more importantly, to finish this sweater. I wish you all well and hopefully see you soon in another video tutorial.